All right, get ready to jump back in time with me because today we are diving deep into a true gaming legend, Super Mario Bros. 3.
Ah, classic.
It's 1988, the NES is at the top of its game, and Nintendo is about to release a game that'll not only blow everyone's minds, but totally redefine what a platformer can even be.
What's really amazing to me is how they took that simple but brilliant formula of the original Super Mario Brothers,
right,
and just cranked the creativity up to a whole other level. It's like they took everything we loved and said, how can we make this even more awesome?
So we all know the basics: run, jump, save Princess Peach. But what did Super Mario Bros. 3 actually do to shake things up?
Well, picture this. Mario, suddenly he's sliding down slopes.
Oh, yeah.
He can pick up stuff and chuck it at those pesky Goombas. He's even swinging from vines like a tiny little jungle explorer.
I love that.
It just added this whole new level of dynamism. You could approach challenges in so many different ways.
And let's not forget those power-ups. This is where things get really interesting.
Absolutely. The Super Leaf, right. Raccoon Mario, the ability to fly.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a cool visual. It totally changed how you navigated the levels. Suddenly you had to think vertically, strategically.
And then there's the Tanooki suit. Mario transforms into this invincible statue.
Oh, yeah.
And wasn't that the first time we saw that move, the ground pound? It's in every Mario game now.
You're right. That satisfying thump as Mario slams down from the air that originated right here in Super Mario Bros. 3. Amazing, huh?
And the frog suit. Oh, those underwater levels. I remember struggling so much as a kid. Did that suit actually help, or was it just for looks?
No, it made a huge difference. It boosted Mario's speed and agility in the water, even gave him a little extra oomph for his jumps.
Huh.
Underwater levels went from being a chore to actually being, almost fun.
Okay, so we've got a more versatile Mario, awesome new abilities. But what about the worlds themselves? Did they just give us more of the same Mushroom Kingdom?
Not even close. The developers went all out with the world building, right? 8 unique kingdoms, each with its own visuals, its own challenges.
Yeah.
You've got grassy plain, sure, but then you're suddenly in a desert, a giant land, a world made of ice. It's constantly fresh and exciting.
And it wasn't just about the individual levels, right? Super Mario Bros. 3 did something totally groundbreaking with that overworld map.
You got it. It wasn't some boring level select screen. It was a dynamic, interactive world in itself. Choose your path. Find secrets, play mini games.
Yeah.
Exploring the map was almost as fun as the levels themselves.
So we're talking about 1988, 1983 technology. How do they do all of this on the NES? How is that even possible?
That's where the real genius comes in. Shigeru Miyamoto and his team, they were basically wizards.
Yeah.
They squeezed every bit of power out of that little gray box, using all sorts of clever programming tricks to create things that people thought were impossible on the NES.
It's incredible. I once heard that the game's visual style was inspired by, wait for it, a stage play. Is that true?
It is, and if you look closely, you can see little hints of that inspiration throughout the game. The title screen, that's a curtain rising.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of the objects, they're either hanging from off-screen catwalks or bolted to the background. It's each level is this elaborate stage set. It's such a cool little detail.
It's amazing. And speaking of cool details, did you know there's actually a funny story behind the Chain Chomp, one of Mario's most iconic enemies?
Oh, yeah, the Chain Chomp.
Apparently, Miyamoto was chased by a really aggressive dog when he was a kid.
Oh, no.
And that experience inspired the design of that barking, tethered ball of fury.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, it just goes to show you how personal experiences can end up shaping the most unexpected parts of a game.
Absolutely. And how about those Koopalings? Bowser's mischievous kids. They made their debut in Super Mario Bros. 3. And each one had such a unique personality.
Yeah, they weren't just generic bad guys, right? Each Koopaling had a unique design, unique attacks, and it just made the boss battles so much more memorable. I was oh no, it's Larry, what's he gonna do?
Okay, so we've got this innovative gameplay, awesome power-ups, a world brimming with imagination. But was this a game for everyone? Or just for, the hardcore platforming masters?
Well, that's the beauty of Super Mario Bros. 3. The developers somehow found this perfect balance between challenge and accessibility. Those first few worlds, they were a little bit easier, perfect for new players to kind of get their feet wet and, stock up on those power-ups.
Yeah.
But the further you went,
right,
oh boy, the difficulty ramped up.
Yeah.
It offered a real challenge, even for those of us who thought we were pretty good at platformers.
Oh, those later levels, especially in World 8. Man, talk about a challenge. But it never felt like impossibles.
Right.
It never felt unfair.
Exactly.
It always felt like if I just, practiced a little bit more, got a little bit better, I could do it.
That's what Super Mario Bros. 3 did so well. It pushed you to your limits, but it never felt punishing, It always felt encouraging.
Yeah.
And that made finally beating a tough level, or even the whole game, so much more rewarding.
Absolutely. And what about two-player modes? Was that just like a fun little extra, or did it really add something to the whole experience?
Oh, two-player mode was brilliant. Instead of playing at the same time, you took turns. One player went through a level, then the other took over on the map.
Yeah.
It made it competitive, but in a good way. You were rooting for each other, but you also wanted to do better than your friend.
Totally. And they even had those mini games, right? Like a remake of the original Mario Brothers.
Oh, yeah. A blast from the past.
It was so cool. It was such a smart way to give you a break from the main game, but also to kind of like pay tribute to where it all started.
It was a little nod to the history, yeah.
We've talked a lot about the gameplay, the visuals, all the innovative stuff, but I think it's time we address the elephant in the room. Super Mario Bros. 3 wasn't just a hit. It was a phenomenon.
Right. It went way beyond just a video game.
It really did.
It was like a cultural experience that everyone was sharing.
It was the game to talk about.
People were talking about it, dressing up as the characters. And remember that scene in the movie The Wizard?
Oh my gosh, yes. The Power Glove, the final battle with Bowser.
Pure marketing genius.
It was. I mean, think about it. Back then, video games were still trying to find their place in mainstream culture.
Mm-hmm.
And then, boom, Super Mario Bros. 3 comes along and just explodes.
It really did capture the imagination of a whole generation, I think.
Oh, totally. And it wasn't just for kids either.
Yeah.
I remember adults being just as obsessed.
Oh, yeah. My parents loved it too.
Which I think really speaks to its universal appeal. It had something for everyone.
Absolutely. It really transcended age. It became like a cultural touchstone. And, the critical reception was phenomenal. It wasn't just praised. It was hailed as a masterpiece, like the game that raised the bar for the whole industry.
Yeah. And it's amazing how well it's held up all these years later.
It's a testament to the timelessness of its design.
Totally.
It proves that you don't need fancy graphics or complicated mechanics to create a lasting, engaging experience.
Right.
It's all about solid gameplay, clever level design, and that sense of fun that just draws you in.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about the impact, the cultural phenomenon, but let's switch gears a bit. I want to talk about something we don't always think about when discussing these older games, the development process.
Okay.
What can we learn from how they made Super Mario Brothers? 3, especially these days when we have like huge development teams, multi-million-dollar budgets.
Well, that's where things get really interesting. You got to remember, Super Mario Bros. 3 was made by a pretty small team. They didn't have all the fancy tools and resources that developers have today. I mean, the technology was limited.
Yeah.
So how did they manage to create something so groundbreaking, so influential with all those limitations?
Yeah, how do they do it?
It was a combination of things, right? Pure ingenuity, passion, a relentless desire to push the boundaries. They were constantly experimenting, squeezing every ounce of performance out of that NES hardware.
It's mind-blowing.
And they drew inspiration from the most unexpected places, like that stage play concept we talked about.
It makes you wonder, if those limitations actually forced them to be more creative.
Oh, I think so.
It sounds like they were more focused on just making a great game, not chasing trends or trying to create a big commercial success.
I think you hit the nail on the head. That's a really important takeaway from Super Mario Bros. 3. Sometimes limitations can actually breed innovation.
Huh, that's interesting.
When you're forced to work within constraints, you have to be more creative, more resourceful, and you really have to focus on those core elements that make a game truly great.
And in the case of Super Mario Bros. 3, those core elements were tight controls, engaging level design,
yes,
a gameplay loop that was both challenging and rewarding.
Exactly. They understood that complexity doesn't automatically equal quality.
Mm-hmm.
The brilliance of Super Mario Bros. 3 is in its simplicity.
Right.
The controls are intuitive, the goals are clear, and the world is familiar yet full of surprises.
Yeah. It's funny, even with that simplicity, there's still so much depth to the game.
Right.
There are secrets, challenges, different paths you can take. You can play it on so many levels.
It really is a perfect example of how a well-designed game can appeal to all kinds of players.
Totally.
Someone who's never played a platformer before can pick it up and have fun right away.
Yeah.
But a seasoned gamer can spend hours mastering it, finding all the little nuances.
Okay, so we've explored the legacy, the development, its lasting appeal. But as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave everyone with a question.
All right, lay it on me.
What is it about Super Mario Bros. 3 that resonates so deeply with players even decades later. What makes it more than just a classic? Why does it hold this special place in our hearts?
That is a question worth pondering. And you know what? That's exactly what we're going to do after this break.
Welcome back. All right, so before we take a little break there, we were talking about what makes Super Mario Bros. 3 so special, why it still has this hold on us,
Right.
even after all these years.
It's a question that's been puzzling people for a long time. Like, why does this game have such a, grip on our hearts even after all these years? It's more than just nostalgia, right? There's got to be something deeper going on.
You know, when I think about my own childhood playing Super Mario Bros. 3,
Yeah.
it's not just the challenge or the power-ups that I remember. It's that feeling of pure joy,
Oh, yeah.
that sense of wonder and excitement, exploring these new worlds. And it felt like everything was possible.
I think a lot of people feel that way. It really tapped into that childlike sense of adventure,
Yeah.
that feeling of discovery that we all have, no matter how old we get. And it's a game that really lets you embrace that.
It did it all with such a simple formula, too. Hunt, jump, grab some power-ups, defeat the bad guys. But the way they put it all together, the level design, the characters,
Yeah.
it just elevated it to a whole other level.
It's a masterclass in game design. Everything, the music, the sound effects, the look of it all, it just works together perfectly to create this immersive, unforgettable experience.
And I think part of its lasting appeal is that it's so accessible. Anyone can pick up a controller and figure out the basics.
Right.
But there's also a surprising amount of depth for people who really want to master it.
Absolutely. It rewards exploration, trying new things. There are secrets everywhere, hidden paths, tricks you can learn. You can just play it for fun, or you can really dig in and find all those little hidden things.
Yeah. And we can't forget about the impact it had on gaming. It wasn't just a good game, it was a game changer.
Totally.
It introduced all these concepts and mechanics that became staples in every platformer after it.
The overworld map,
Yeah.
power-ups, the
Yeah.
character designs, so much of it became iconic and so influential. Super Mario Bros. 3 didn't just raise the bar, it set a whole new standard.
For real. It's crazy to think a game from 1988 can still have that much influence,
It just shows you the power of great game design. Some things, they never get old.
Yeah. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the world of Super Mario Bros. 3, I just want to leave everyone with one final thought.
Okay.
Sometimes the simplest things are the most profound. Super Mario Brothers 3 is about running and jumping and rescuing a princess.
Yeah.
But it's also about so much more than that. It's about joy. It's about imagination. It's about that that never give up attitude. And I think it reminds us that even in a world that's always looking for the next big thing,
Yeah.
there's still something special, something magical about those classics.
Beautifully said. Super Mario Bros. 3 really is a testament to the power of creativity. It reminds us to never forget about the simple things, the
Yeah.
things that make gaming so fun,
Right.
so engaging, so special.
Absolutely. And on that note, we'll say goodbye for now. But until next time, keep exploring, keep playing,
Yeah.
keep diving deep.